video moves quickly. Expect to pause often to read through the sample passages. In literary terms, what is conflict? Conflict is the incompatibility between forces that creates inherent tension designed to intrigue the reader. In other words, conflict is what makes a story interesting. There are two basic types of conflict: internal conflict, which is man versus self, and external conflict, which is man versus anything else, such as man versus society, man versus environment, man versus the supernatural, man versus technology, or man versus fate. Internal conflict is just what it sounds like: conflict that a character has internally with himself. A classic example of internal conflict is in Shakespeare's Hamlet, when Hamlet ponders his famous question,
"To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep."
And we also see internal conflict in Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus, when Faustus has sold his soul to the devil and then struggles with himself as he considers repenting.
The stars move still. Time runs. The clock will strike. The devil will come and Faustus must be damned. Oh, I'll leap up to my God who pulls me down. See where Christ's blood streams in the firmament. One drop would save my soul, half a drop! Oh, my Christ! Oh, rend not my heart for naming of my Christ, yet will I call on him. Oh, spare me, Lucifer!
External conflict is also just what it sounds like: conflict that a character has with any force outside himself. That covers a lot of territory. The external conflict, man versus man, is the most obvious and the one that often springs to mind when we think of conflict. This is man or woman against any other man or woman in any situation, from a fist fight to a battle of wits. In William Golding's novel Lord of the Flies, we have Ralph and Jack continually coming into conflict as Jack's tribe hunts and attempts to kill Ralph's more civilized group. In Richard Connell's short story, The Most Dangerous Game, the shipwrecked Rainsford pits his wits against General Zaroff's and finally engages in one-on-one combat with him. The external conflict, man versus environment, is exemplified in such works as Jack London's To Build a Fire, where the unnamed main character pits his human strength and will against the unrelenting forces of nature on the frozen Yukon Trail. Stephen Crane's The Open Boat is another short story where we see man struggling with his environment as a small boat full of shipwrecked survivors struggle to survive on the open sea. We see the conflict man versus society in works such as Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, in which lawyer Atticus Finch struggles to defend a black client accused of rape in a racist society, and Elie Wiesel's Night, which chronicles the young Elie's struggle to survive through the nightmare of concentration camps during the Holocaust, and George Orwell's 1984, in which Winston struggles to live a life uncontrolled by Big Brother. Man versus technology has become more prevalent in recent times, but Mary Shelley's Frankenstein can certainly be seen as the early classic example of this conflict. This is also one of the main conflicts evident in Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, as well as in more modern stories such as the Matrix film series. Man versus the supernatural can be considered one of the predominant conflicts in works such as the Odyssey, where Odysseus struggles to get home against the will of some of the gods, mostly Poseidon. Man versus fate is one that appears frequently in the Greek dramas, where the gods controlled fate. From this perspective, this is also a main conflict in the Odyssey. You could also consider this to be one of the conflicts in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Romeo certainly did, as you can see in some of his most famous lines.
My mind misgives some consequence yet hanging in the stars shall bitterly begin his fearful date with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised life closed in my breast by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail.
Oh, I am fortune's fool.
One piece of literature can have more than one conflict. In fact, conflicts often overlap and inform each other. For example, a protagonist struggling in a man versus fate conflict might also be struggling internally, man versus self, as he decides whether to give in to fate or fight against it. Should he follow the destiny fate has prepared for him, even if it brings about his demise? So, how does conflict further your understanding of a text? Conflict provides insight to the character or characters' motivations. Their fears, desires, like love, anger, hate, etc., their internal and external purpose, sense of belonging, their needs, their survival, their level of autonomy, or their instincts. It provides insights into their evolution throughout the text, their growth or regression, or their success or failure. And conflict also illustrates the character's personal values. Keep this in mind while you're reading your novel and other works. See how an understanding of conflict deepens and enhances your understanding of and enjoyment of the story.